Good morning, my dear Sangha. Today is the 9th of June 2012, and we are in the meditation hall, Assembly of Stars, Lower Hamlet, during our 21-day retreat, The Science of the Buddha. We can speak of our practice in terms of energy, because mindfulness is a kind of energy. Concentration is a kind of energy, and insight is also a kind of energy. These are very wholesome, positive kind of energies that can help us transform ourselves and transform the world. And we know that together we can do better, because the collective energy of mindfulness, concentration and insight can help heal everyone and transform everyone. And we have our part, our contribution in making that happen, the collective energy of mindfulness, concentration, insight, peace, and brotherhood. When we walk together, every one of us focus our attention on our in-breath, out-breath, and steps. We are taking care of ourselves by observing our breath, observing our steps, and in the meanwhile we generate the energy of mindfulness and peace and concentration and joy. We are taking care of ourselves. But when you do that, you also take care of other people, because other people around you will profit also from the energy that you generate while breathing and walking. I always observe my friends, my disciples, my students when they walk. You may not know, but Thầy is always observing you. And Thầy has an eyes behind. Even if you walk behind Thầy still see you. We come together for 21-day retreat, and in the process, in the time being together, we have built together a kind of monument, a kind of stupa, kind of temple called brotherhood. Nothing can be achieved without the energy of brotherhood and sisterhood. If you want to save the planet, if you want to transform society, you need brotherhood, sisterhood. Technology is not enough. And if we do not have a brotherhood, sisterhood, technology might be destructive more than constructive. So when we speak about the environment, peace, social justice, and so on, we usually speak of non-violent action, technology, and other means in order to achieve these. But we forget that the element of brotherhood, sisterhood is very crucial. Without that, we cannot do anything at all. And brotherhood, sisterhood is a kind of energy also that help us to be strong. And that can be built with the practice of mindfulness, mindfulness of listening, mindfulness of speaking, so that we can restore communication, we can make communication easier, we can communicate with ourselves easier, we can communicate with other people easier. And since we can communicate, we can restore harmony and generate understanding and compassion. So when we come together for 21 days, we might think that we will learn some practice, we will learn some sutras, we get a chance to understand more the teaching of the Buddha, to make friends with other practitioners, to improve our practice. But one of the things we do during the time we are together is to help build brotherhood, sisterhood, which is very crucial for changing the future, changing the present moment. Brotherhood is a kind of monument, and we need the time to build it. And with the energy of mindfulness, concentration and insight, we will be able to build true brotherhood, sisterhood. And with that we have hope. Without brotherhood, sisterhood, without Maitri and Karuna, we cannot do anything. The word Zen is a Japanese pronunciation of dhyana. Dhyana is a Sanskrit term, mean it is for meditation. The Chinese pronounce this as Chan. Chan Buddhism. The Japanese Zen. And the Vietnamese Thiền. The Sanskrit Jhana. So if you want to write it completely, you have to add na, thiền na, jhana. And translated into Vietnamese, Chinese, that is the practice of reflection, reflecting, tư duy tu. The practice of reflecting. In Plum Village, we like to use the word, the expression, the practice of looking deeply. In order to look deeply, you should have the time to be there. And with mindfulness and concentration, you can direct your attention to what is there and have a deep look. And with that energy of mindfulness and concentration, you can get a breakthrough. and begin to see the nature, the true nature of what is there. What is there may be a cloud, maybe a pebble, maybe a human being, maybe our anger. So the practice of Zen, the practice of dhyana, meditation, is to be there and to look deeply. And the result is a full understanding of the nature of what is there. And what is there may be our body. Buddhism in Vietnam begin with that kind of Buddhism. In the second, in the beginning of the 3rd century, there was a businessman coming who came from Sogdian. And he went to Vietnam by boat as a merchant. And usually businessmen from India, when they come, they will land on Vietnam first before they go to China. So that young merchant and other people, they stay there in order to do business and wait until the wind is favorable in order to go back to India. So they have many months staying in Vietnam. And during that time, they practice their Buddhism, and that is how Buddhism was brought to Vietnam. That was the 1st and the 2nd century AD. And there was a young merchant like that who found that Vietnam is pleasant to stay, so he stayed there and he married a Vietnamese young lady. And he gave birth to a little boy who became the first teacher of Zen Buddhism. His name is Tăng Hội Sen Hui. Tăng Hội. When Tăng Hội was 10, his father died. His mother also died. And he was accepted to be an aspirant for noviceship in a Buddhist temple. And that was during the first half of the 3rd century. And Vietnam was already a Buddhist center. And that is why Tăng Hội was able to learn Sanskrit and Chinese in Vietnam, in North Vietnam now. And he began to organize Sangha and practice and teaching in Vietnam before he went to China in order to share the practice of Buddhist meditation. At that time, the Han Empire was already collapsed. And there were 3 countries, Bắc Ngụy, Tây Thục, and Đông Ngô. The Wu kingdom was at the south, next to Vietnam. So Tăng Hội left Vietnam to go to the Wu kingdom in the first half of the 3rd century. And it is recorded in Buddhist history that when he came to the Wu kingdom, there is no Buddhist monk. He was the first Buddhist monk seen by the people of the Wu dynasty. And he set up a little hut and he practiced walking meditation. And people begin to talk about the presence of a Buddhist monk. And the king of the Wu empire, Tôn Quyền, Sun Quyền, asked him to come and talk to him. And the king was very impressed of Tăng Hội. So he allowed Tăng Hội and he supported Tăng Hội to build the first Buddhist temple in the kingdom of Wu. The name of the temple is First Built, Kiên Sơ, First Built Temple. Now if you go to Nanking, you can still see the ruin of that temple that was built around the middle of the 3rd century. And he began to teach Buddhist meditation. And that was about 300 years before Bodhidharma came to China. Because usually we think of Bodhidharma as the first teacher of Zen Buddhism in China. But it's not true. 300 years before, Tăng Hội has came. Bodhidharma did not leave behind him writings. But Tăng Hội, he left behind many works that are still preserved in the canon. And Tăng Hội used also the sutra on mindful breathing to teach. So what we do today is very much a continuation of Master Tăng Hội teaching and practice. And the second king of the Wu dynasty did not like Tăng Hội, and he tried to create difficulties. But finally, he was convinced by Tăng Hội to practice Buddhism, and he received the 5 mindfulness trainings from Tăng Hội. The second, and that was recorded in Chinese documents, Cao Tăng Truyện, stories of eminent monks in China. In the Zen tradition, there is one scripture that is very much considered to be the beloved scripture. That is the Diamond Sutra. You can imagine a Zen monk carrying in his bag and all the script of Diamond Sutra. And in the Diamond Sutra, we are urged to throw away, letting go, 4 kinds of notions. In order to be able to understand the true nature of reality and of yourself. And the 4 notions that you are asked to remove is the notion of self, the notion of man. The notion of living being. And the notion of lifespan. It is said in the Diamond Sutra, if someone who is still caught in the notion of self, of man, of living beings, and of lifespan, he is not free. A Bodhisattva who is still caught in these four notions is not a real Bodhisattva. And we know that the Diamond Sutra is a Mahayana Sutra. And Mahayana Sutra, according to scholars, appear later than Theravada Sutras. But there is a root sutra that give very much the same kind of teaching. Cái túi có thể đâu vào. That we spoke of is the Sutra 296 of Samyukta Agama, trường Tạp Aham. That's only for reference. First is the notion of self. When we look into our body, we see elements like form. We can see feelings. We can see perceptions. We can see mental formations, and we can see consciousness. And these five elements, they interact with each other. They work together and produce thought and feelings and so on, happiness and suffering and so on. But we don't see anything that we can call self, the self. Suppose we see the body and mind working together and produce a feeling. And what we can say is there is a feeling. But we don't need a feeler in order to have a feeling. There is the production of a thought. And we say that there is a thought. But we cannot see the thinker. There is a thought, but there is no thinker. And when we look at something, we see that something. When we look at a tree, we see the tree. There is seeing, but there is no seer. And our eyes does not see exactly. Usually we see the eye sees, but the eye is not the seer. The eye is only one of the many conditions that can come together and bring about sight. There is sight, but there is no seer. There are thoughts, but there is no thinker. There are feelings, but there are no feeler. If you open this booklet on page 28, and if you read the very first verse, you see that there is absolutely no subject, no agent, and no one who enjoys the fruit of action. And the second verse, there are only the 12 limbs of existence, the aggregate, the realms, and the worlds that are always changing. When you observe thoroughly and contemplate these things, you shall not find a separate self anywhere. So here we are not talking about the conventional truth. We are approaching the absolute truth. Because in Buddhism we speak of two kinds of truth, the conventional one and the ultimate one. A dialogue with scientists would not be possible if we do not if we forget this fact. There are two kinds of truth. Conventional truth, samvriti, sat, and ultimate truth, paramatta, sat. Sat is satya, which means the truth. In the conventional truth, you see you as a separate entity from him or her. You see that there is someone who is born, there is someone who dies. There is someone who observes, and then there is someone that is something that is being observed. So that can be accepted in the realm of conventional truth. But if we want to find up the ultimate truth, you have to go further. You have to abandon the conventional truth. You have to leave these notions behind, including notions of being and non-being, birth and death, and so on. So the practice of letting go of these notions are important. And the same thing is true with science. When you are in classical science represented by Newton, you can use these notions that consciousness is something independent from the world of reality. Whether you are there or you are not there, you know or you don't know, reality is reality. So that is the separation of consciousness and nature as two distinctive things. There is a subject inside trying to reach out in order to understand the object. And that kind of belief, that kind of notions, if you are not able to let go, to leave behind, you cannot go into the realm of ultimate truth. So in quantum physics, if you are not free from these notions, it's very difficult for you to approach and begin to understand. And you consider nature, reality as absurd because they are still using these mental categories in order to look. And scientists are struggling with this. Because many of them are still caught in these notions that use when they observe things in a way of classical science. So scientists must be like a yogi, practitioners of meditation, have to learn how to leave behind these notions in order to be free enough to touch the ultimate. Whether that object that you observe is a particle or a wave, you have to be free enough. If you believe that that object should be or a particle or a wave, cannot be both, and you are still caught. The truth is that it can be both. And sometimes it behaves like a particle, sometimes it behaves like a wave. And maybe that object is neither a wave or a particle. Wave or particle are signs that you use, and you need that sign to recognize something. But the truth is that the object, the reality, is free from sign, from notions. So, for the second verse of on absolute truth, is saying that there are 12 limbs of existence, the aggregate, the realm, and the world that are always changing. We have spoke about 5 aggregate, 5 skandhas. Which is form, feeling, perceptions, mental formation, and consciousness. And the 12 ayatanas. Ayatanas, which is eyes, nose, tongue, eyes, ear, eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And the object of ears is a sound, form, smell, taste, touch, and object of mind. You see, we don't call it reality, we call it object of mind. And the other word, the word is Dharma. Dharma. Dharma is object of mind. As far as the teaching of the Buddha is also Dharma, but with a capital D, Dharma. And when Dharma is written with a small d, it means just things, object of your mind. And you can say that the five skandha is there, the 12 ayatana realms is there. But looking deeply into the five skandhas and the 12 ayatana, you don't see itself. And also, if you look into the consciousness that is produced by the contact between ear and sound, eyes and form, nose and smell, it's like this is sights, eyes consciousness, eyes consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. So together we have 18. It's called the 18 dhatu. The Chinese says yuri. So when you observe the five skandhas, the 12 ayatana, the 18 dhatus, you see them, but you don't see any self hidden behind them. Suppose you look at the thought, you see the thought is well there, but there is no thinker hidden behind the thought. So let us go back to the first verse. There is absolutely no subject. In fact, subject here is the owner.